Okay, let's check in with Nigerian markets where we finished off on Friday. A very big jump to start the new year despite the one-year holiday on Wednesday. We finished 2.09%. Investors start very early in the new year to look very strong in terms of sentiment into our market. With that hold today when we start a full trading week, all that remains to be seen. Well, we got our 26,968 back. We're just one step away from that psychological level, 27,000, where we closed the market on Friday. 2.10%. The equity cap, however, grabbed the 13 trillion naira. Will it hold it on into the new year? That remains to be seen. But in terms of volume, quite a very decent week. 4 trading days, 2.3 billion ordinary shares in nearly 15,000 transactions. And that will tell you something. The market, the appetite was very strong by fund managers, PFAs, institutional investors getting into the new year, taking positions very quickly ahead of the curve and try to see what they can do with the new year. So if you take it all up and check through the key sectors, you find the banking sector making a very strong gain, nearly 3%, 2.95 on Friday. All the 5 main sectors, all in the green, but the big jumps came from oil and gas, insurance, consumer, and industrial goods. We'll check in more with the markets later, giving you a sense of that and the opening bell today at the debt market. But let's check in with what is causing some angst over the weekend as far as Nigeria's electricity sector is concerned. This is the founding managing director and CEO of Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company, NBET, Rumundaka Wonodi, who is also the founder and senior partner at ZKJ Energy. He's joining us via Skype from Port Harcourt in River State. Good morning, Wonodi. It's good to see you on the program. We appreciate your time.
Good morning, Boson, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much. When it comes to electricity, it's highly inflammable, electrifying when you describe how people react to one single jump or increase in electricity strife. So we've seen NERC over the weekend say, no, we're not increasing tariff. Who do we believe here?
I think, you can believe the regulator. The tariffs are not going up, at least at the consumer end. So consumers are not expected to pay anything more than they paid yesterday until April this year. So this is just the required minor review that happens every 6 months. And there are a few changes, but not to be seen by consumers. So there are remittance levels for discos which have changed. And then in this order, NERC has also put in some new regulations to guide the industry.
So how do we understand this review that the NERC is done that has now caused such a scare?
Well, I think it's just the historical experience that we have, which is that each time there is a tariff review, it usually will translate to a hike in tariff because, you know that there is inflation and the cost of money continues to go up. But in this case, this is just the minor review required by next business rules and or actually by the MITO order itself. And nothing to worry about when it comes to tariff increase for consumers. But then there are a few other stipulations that in there that NEC has put in place.
Okay, would you like to explain that to us when we talk about this MITO, to talk about the exchange rate 2015, 2013? How should consumers, ordinary consumers, take these developments within the electricity market, the electricity transition market, that is?
I think that for consumers, anytime they hear about tariff hike, the very first thing that comes to mind is what has changed when it comes to service and supply, right? So we've said this before in prior times that NEC needs to start transitioning the market where consumers could actually have a predictable power supply, or at least we get an idea that things are moving from, say, 2-hour supply to 3-hour to 4-hour, whatever you have. So for consumers to keep hearing about tariff hike, I think the very first question is what has changed in terms of supply? But what NEC is looking at is to look at the contributory macroeconomic indices to the tariff and see whether they have changed and see how, if they change, they have affected the tariff in such a way that they actually have a cost-reflective tariff that allows operators in the industry to meet the cost of providing service. So that they need to do, they do that every 6 months. And during this period, nothing much has changed. The exchange rate that NEC uses has remained stable. The cost of gas is remained stable. The inflation rate compared to what it was in the past has not moved dramatically, and generation remains within the same range. So what they've done is very little to affect the cost of electricity, at least to the consumer.
So, at what point this year, 2020, do you think Nigeria will see a hike in electricity tariffs that goes straight out of consumers' pockets? Is it going to be April? Is it going to be June? When is it likely going to happen?
In April, we expect to see a slight hike, and gradually over the next 1.5 years, you expect the hike to continue as government pays down its subsidy to the sector. I believe that in 2021, government expects that it will be full cost reflective tariff paid by the consumer without the government injecting subsidy to it.
So we're in a transition, kind of, Wonodi, isn't it? Mr. President spoke about electricity, yes, in his New Year address or New Year letter, and he says Nigeria should expect, after 12 months of rigorous work within the power sector, to enjoy stable, reliable electricity. I read that personally to mean 12 months after we fixed perhaps the Mambila Plateau, the reforms with the discos and gencos. So this is a tightrope for the administration here. How long do you think all this will work out, in your opinion?
We don't focus really at that El Dorado endpoint. What we want to see is a steady progress and migrating people from poor service to better service to the absolute good service. So the very first thing is, what is a reliable power? Does that mean 24/7? Or does it mean predictable power that you can rely on, which is that I know when I'll buy 4 hours or 6 hours a day? I think that is where we should focus on. And I believe that the work that is being done, if it's done consistently, diligently, something within 12 months. But would we have 24 hours 7 for everybody? I don't think so. It's not. You can take my word for that. It is not yet possible. We cannot arrive there now.
So if you dig through the reforms that the administration is trying to do within the power sector, where do you think the quick wins or the quick takes should be?
What are the quick wins? I think that the very first thing that needs to be done is we need to have better data, so that without data, you're not able to actually know what your load requirements are within areas and pockets of districts, so that you can actually decide how much power you can give that district to give them a reliable or predictable power. So data is important. And that needs to go concurrently with every other thing that is going on. The second most important thing is what the government had identified, which is trying to fix transmission and distribution capacity such that it will match generation. That way we can push more power to homes and businesses. I don't know whether there are quick wins, but I think that these are the necessary things that we need to do. I tend to stay away from quick wins in power sector or infrastructure because it gets to confuse people, and then they begin to do things that are not sustainable, right? So it's important to think about what, if we work on diligently, we can see things that will really impact supply in a positive manner.
Okay, so a final one here, Wonodi, in terms of the sector, oftentimes we talk about funding and financing. Is it all about money here, or the size of money that we have to pour into the power sector? Is that what it is almost always all about?
Look, make no mistake about it. The whole idea of reform is to bring private capital into the market. So funding is important, but as important as that is, it's also consistent policies and the execution of projects. So the federal government is undertaking to go into this deal with the German government or Siemens to expand the network. It is important that people stay diligent and do what needs to be done. So yes, money is very important, but I think execution and a good plan that people stay to is as important as funding is critical.
Rumudaka Wonodi, founding Managing Director and CEO of NBET and founder CEO of ZKG Energy Partners. Thank you so much. This is a conversation we'll continue to touch base with you to get your expertise and industry experience into what's going on in our electricity transition market. Thank you so much for speaking with us today from Port Harcourt.
Thank you.